In 1984, George Michael released a song that would haunt the airwaves for decades. A song born from teenage guilt carried by the most iconic sax riff of the last 50 years. But it's also the version that almost ruined George Michael's career.
I have to say this is parallel with wanting to be a musician, but I wanted to be a star. I think there is no such thing as a real reluctant star. I've never met anybody that was a reluctant star. You know, I mean, you get to a certain stage and you have to have done it yourself.
This is the story of how Careless Whisper came to life, and how its first version nearly ended George Michael's solo career before it began.
When I was about 6 or 7 years old.
How old were you when you wrote Careless Whispers then?
I was 17 when I wrote Careless Whisper. Yeah.
It started in 1980. George Michael was 17 years old, boarding a bus to work. As he paid the driver, a melody came to him. Not a passing idea, but a ghost that refused to leave. It looped in his mind for months, haunting, unfinished. One afternoon, he visited his best friend and musical partner, Andrew Ridgeley. Andrew was strumming a guitar riff, rhythmic, hypnotic. George froze. This was it, the missing piece. He grabbed a pen and started writing. The lyrics poured out, drawn from his own life. When George was 12, he had a crush on a girl named Jane. He met her at the skating rink where his sister hung out, but he was a shy, chubby kid with thick glasses. He didn't stand a chance. At 16, things were different. He was slimmer, confident, and singing in a ska band called the Executives. He started dating a girl named Helen. And then Jane came back.
I think that it really dawned on me probably after about 6 or 8 months that there was something really big to come out of it. I'd never really seen stardom above Top of the Pops, you know.
This time, she was interested. The problem? George never broke up with Helen. He drifted into a double life, one that would inevitably collapse. Careless Whisper became his confession. A story about betrayal, about two people dancing for the last time knowing it's over. He even considered naming it Guilty Feet, after the line, "Guilty feet have got no rhythm." But Careless Whisper had a mystery to it, a poetry that matched the regret. It was one of the first songs George and Andrew wrote together, alongside Club Tropicana and Wham Rap. It helped them land their first record deal with Intervision Records. But while the upbeat tracks went on Wham's debut album, Careless Whisper was shelved. George believed it could be massive, but he doubted himself. At one point, he even thought about giving it to another artist. Then came the fight. Wham was trapped in a bad contract. Intervision controlled their music and paid them next to nothing. When George decided Careless Whisper would be his first solo single, the label tried to claim it. The legal battle was ugly, but it taught George one thing: never give away your music. By the time he broke free and signed with Epic Records, Careless Whisper was ready for the world. Or so he thought. The first recording session was with a legend, Jerry Wexler, the man who had worked with Aretha Franklin, Ray Charles, and Bob Dylan. George walked into Muscle Shoals Sound Studio knowing he would sing in the same booth as his heroes. And he panicked. He was so nervous he showed up drunk. The take was flat, lifeless. It was Careless Whisper, but without its soul. When George heard it back, his heart sank. This wasn't the song in his head. And if this was his solo debut, it could sink his career before it even began. George Michael made the hardest decision of his young career. He scrapped the Jerry Wexler version. No matter how much history that studio held, no matter how legendary the producer, this wasn't his song.
Looking at the presentation of it, Andrew and I like camping it up like crazy. I look at it and it's not really me. I mean, I can't believe it was me then either.
They're so funny to watch.
He decided to re-record Careless Whisper on his own terms. Different studio, different players, his choice of musicians. It was a risk. If the second version failed, his first solo single would arrive sounding unsure, and the critics would smell blood. But George knew what he wanted, and one part mattered more than anything else: the saxophone. He had been carrying that riff in his head for years. The sound he imagined was warm but cutting, smooth but haunting. And yet no one could get it right. 8 saxophonists tried. 8 failed. Then Steve Gregory walked in. When George played him the melody, Gregory understood immediately this wasn't a normal solo. The phrasing was unusual, the pitch had to be exact, the emotion had to be felt. While George was away, Gregory came up with a plan. He asked the engineer to slow the tape. He played the part a semitone lower. When the tape was sped back up, the tone changed, just slightly. It was unnatural and unforgettable. When George returned and heard it, he stopped. That's it. That's the sax solo I want. The finished song was unlike anything Wham had released. It didn't match their teenage pop image. It was darker, sadder, older. Epic Records decided to market it differently. In the UK, it was released under George Michael's name alone, a deliberate step towards his solo career. In other countries, the cover still read Wham featuring George Michael. Even the music video had 2 lives. One shot for the original Jerry Wexler version, one shot for George's re-recording. Only the second one would survive in the public's memory. When Careless Whisper finally hit the airwaves, it didn't just climb the charts, it dominated them. #1 in 25 countries. A ballad of love, guilt, and regret that would outlive the man who wrote it.
Oh no, we're totally out of touch now. We've sold out, we've sold our souls to rock and roll, and we've spent far too much time being rich and famous, being blasé, yeah.
I mean, your record has been...
And yet, George Michael never fully understood its magic. He respected it, he appreciated its place in his career, but he didn't feel the song the way the world did.
One of the reasons that I can't actually relate to Careless Whisper myself as well as a lot of other people seem to, because it is obviously still the one that people come up to me and say, oh, Careless Whisper, It's very frightening actually to think that that's the song that people refer to, and it's like...
Fans, however, felt everything. They heard the ache in his voice, the truth in the lyrics, the way that saxophone line seemed to freeze time. For many, it became the soundtrack to their own heartbreaks. In 1985, Smokey Robinson stood on stage at the Apollo Theater and sang it with him. 2 voices, 2 legends sharing a confession in front of the world. Today, Careless Whisper remains one of the greatest ballads of the 1980s, and one of the most recognizable songs in history. It could have been ruined by nerves, bad timing, and the wrong take, but George Michael took control, and in doing so, he turned teenage guilt into a timeless anthem.